On behalf of the Honorable Speaker, members of Sierra Leone Parliament, and the government and people of the Republic of Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leone delegation wishes to extend one felicitation to the Honorable Speaker and members of this august body. We wish to extend special thanks and commendations to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for their continued support towards the integration process of the entire ECOWAS region. We also wish to congratulate the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, for his re-election for a second term. We pray for God's continuous blessings upon him and the people of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I now wish to present the country report of the Sierra Leone delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament. Political situation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the political situation in Sierra Leone has continued to improve after the 2018 general elections. The current administration has appointed Sierra Leoneans to various appointive positions and designations in the civil and public service to effectively run the administrative machinery of state. The 2018 general election petition cases for the western area have, however, continued to linger in the courts, whilst the petition cases, largely from the northern province, have been thrown out of court for lack of substantive evidence. On assuming office in April 2019, His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Marabio, set up a transition team to inquire into the way government ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, were administered by the erstwhile administration. The report of the Government Transition Team, GTT, had come up with strong allegations of widespread graft, corruption, and gross misuse of public resources that adversely affected the economy of the country. The report therefore recommended the establishment of a commission of inquiry to look into these and other matters. Pursuant to Section 147 of the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act No. 6 of 1991, the President set up 3 commissions of inquiry to inquire into alleged corruption, abuse of office, and misdemeanors by ministers, senior public officials of the former government led by President Anes Bai Koroma. The 3 commissions are chaired by learned judges, namely Justice Biobele George Will from Nigeria, Justice Bankole Thompson, a Sierra Leonean, and Justice William Anan Atuguba from Ghana. Sierra Leone has held 3 local government by-elections in Bonth, Port Loko, and Cambia districts. The by-election in Bonth, the hometown of the President, was won by the opposition All People's Congress APC party, while the by-elections in Port Loko and Cambia district were won by the governing Sierra Leone People's Party SLPP. In a related development, the All People's Congress Party issued an official press statement calling on the Chief Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Infa Ali Conte of the National Electoral Commission, NEC, to resign, feeling which the APC party would not participate in any future elections managed by the Chief Electoral Commissioner because of alleged election irregularities that were said to have occurred in the Port Loko and Cambia district by-elections. In a more recent development, precisely on the 2nd May 2019, the All People's Congress Party, APC party members of Parliament staged a walkout of Parliament during the state opening of Sierra Leone Parliament by His Excellency the President, in protest against the election petition cases in courts. These members of Parliament carried placards demanding the scrapping of the election petitions cases in the courts. Security situation. The nature and level of security threat to Sierra Leone's national security have been fluctuating since the end of the rebel war in 2002. There has been a paradigm shift from physical security, which is mainly state-centric, to human security. This is to ensure sustainable peace and pro-poor development strides. According to security assessment of the period under review, the probabilities of external threats threats relating to military, paramilitary, and subversive activities were negligible. Efforts towards improving infrastructure development, quality education within the context of capital development, enhanced energy and medical services, discipline in fiscal management, and improved revenue generation, harnessing natural resources have been heightened. All of these form the basis of guaranteed human security. The outbreak of the Ebola viral disease, EVD, in 2014 in the Mana River Basin created an atmosphere of awe and anguish across the country because of the high death toll. The devastating impact of the EVD, exacerbated by the collapse of the international price of iron ore, continue to linger on to date. However, efforts are being made by prospective development agendas to cushion the effects. Corruption still remains a challenge, although efforts by the current political administration to address the menace have started yielding some positive results. It must, however, be noted that certain inherited deep-seated challenges constitute internal threats to Sierra Leone national security. Critical among these is a high rate of unemployment among the youths, which continue to pose a threat to public order, crime, and other antisocial behaviors. The activities of certain multinational companies have often posed socio-economic threats caused by disaffections among locals in the mining and farming communities on issues of environmental degradation, land rights, disputes over corporate social responsibility, expectations regarding living standards, land lease agreements, etc. Government has shown strong commitment in resolving these disputes. President Bio has set up a mediation team headed by the Vice President to resolve one of the most contentious cases in Pujan District involving Sokfin Agriculture Company, a foreign multinational company investing in oil palm. Sierra Leone has also suffered from disaster-related issues such as flooding due to unusually heavy rains and deforestation. The August 2017 landslide and flooding in Freetown left over 1,000 people dead and over 7,000 people affected. It is relieving to note that in spite of sporadic fire disasters, recent disaster preparedness and risk reduction efforts have seen a reduction in disaster occurrence and impact between 2018 to date. Terrorism is considered to be a serious threat. A number of African countries have experienced high level of terrorism in recent past, and it has become a bloody and robust venture around the continent. For this reason, the Sierra Leone National Threat Assessment for 2019 has rated the threat of terrorism to be slightly lower than it has been rated in previous years. Significant gains have been made by putting measures in place to forestall any terrorist attack on the country and its people. The Counter-Terrorism Strategy for Sierra Leone, CTSSL, and the Counter-Terrorism Implementation Plan, CTIP, have continued to be strongly supported by government. Government ministries, departments, and agencies that are responsible for the implementation of the counter-terrorism measures have been encouraged to remain vigilant and professional. Plans for the joint specialized counter-terrorism trainings to be conducted for security sector personnel comprising the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces, RSLAF, Sierra Leone Police, SRP, National Fire Force, NFF, and Sierra Leone Correction Service, SRCS, are ongoing. The trainings, which are geared towards enhanced capacity building for effective response to the threat of terrorism, are undertaken in tandem with organizing special workshops with religious leaders and clerics on counter-radicalization and reorientation about the role of religion in fighting against radical fundamentalism. Human rights situation. The protection and promotion of human rights has continued to improve in Sierra Leone. The right to life, liberty, and security of persons is guaranteed under Article 6 and 9 of the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights and Section 15, 16, and 17 of the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act No. 6 of 1991. These instruments guarantee individual entitlements to enjoyment of right to life, liberty, and security of persons in Sierra Leone. The Human Rights Commission has holistically continued to monitor the following human rights situation in the entire country, which are as follows. Freedom of expression and the press. The country continues to enjoy the right to freedom of expression as guaranteed by Article 19, Article 9, and Section 25 of the ICCPR and ACPHR and the entire 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, respectively. The proliferation of both the print and electronic media outlets across the country and its social media has created a platform for free speech devoid of government interference and intimidation. More importantly, the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, the country's umbrella media organization, continue to advocate for the repeal of Part 5 of the Public Order Act of 1965, which criminalizes libel and slander. Freedom of information in media. The country took a bold step in guaranteeing this right with the promulgation of the Right to Freedom of Information Act 2013 and the setting up of the Right to Access Information Commission, RAIC. However, since its inception, the Commission is noted to be fraught with a number of challenges, which includes, but not limited to, office space and staffing. The Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone has also observed lack of records management and therefore recommended the need for capacity development. Freedom of assembly and protest. The country continues to enjoy the right to freedom of assembly and protest as provided for in Article 13, UDHR, Article 12, ICCPR, Article 10, ACHPR, and Section 18 of the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone. Protection of the right of the child. Children's rights are provided for in the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, ACRWC 1990, the Convention of the Rights of the Child, CRA 2007, and other international instruments. Child abuse, exploitation, and trafficking are noted to be pervasive and widespread countrywide. Following the child marriage in Africa campaign launched by the AU in August 2016, the Office of the First Lady, Law Reform Commission, Justice Sector Coordinating Office, UNICEF, Save the Children, YACAM, that's the Youth Advocacy, Plan International, and Defense for Children International, set up a subcommittee that concluded a review of the laws dealing with child marriage in June 2017. Due to the increase in sexual-based violence among girls as young as 4 years and babies, the President declared a national emergency on rape and other sexual-related offenses. There are also calls from campaigners against sexual-based violence for a review of the Sexual Offences Act 2012. The Law Reform Commission is taking the lead on that. Women's rights. The CEDEAO 1979, the Beijing Declaration 1995, the Maputo Protocol 2015, and Section 15 and 26 of the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone guarantee the fundamental rights of women and girls in Sierra Leone. Women and girls continue to suffer wanton abuse. The Ministry of Social Welfare, Children and Children's Affairs, in collaboration with other partners, commemorated the International Women's Day with the theme Women in the Changing World of Work, Planet 50-50 by 2030. Government is committed to sustaining the increase in inclusive participation of women to enhance chances of socio-economic gender parity by 2030. Right of racial minorities and immigrants. Following steps to engender the realization of these rights, plans are underway in the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone to set up a Directorate of Migration and Human Trafficking, that will respond to the protection and promoting of minorities, that is, immigrants working abroad and trafficking in persons. Currently, the HRCSL is working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation to repatriate Sierra Leoneans trapped in Kuwait and other countries in the Middle East whose rights are reported to be violated. In addition, HRCSL is working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation to review the Refugee Act 2017 dealing with the protection and promotion of the rights of refugees in Sierra Leone. Status of the implementation of community texts. Sierra Leone is in full compliance in the implementation of the community legal instruments, except the Protocol on ECOWAS Common External Tariff, CET, which is in its exploratory stage. Ratification of community protocols and convention. Sierra Leone has ratified 43 of the community protocols and convention, with 11 remaining to be ratified. Implementation of community programs and the community levy. Sierra Leone has continued to implement community programs such as the Financial Agreement on Emergency Electricity by the Ministry of Energy, Maritime Administration, the Ministry of Information, ECOWAS Logistics Depot in Longue, and the EcoAgri's program in the Ministry of Agriculture. Pursuant to an agreement to pay up the debt owed by Sierra Leone, the government is committed and has been paying the monthly sum agreed to. As recently as December 2018, a payment of $400,000 was made. ECOWAS infrastructure and transport policies. Sierra Leone has continued to implement the ECOWAS infrastructure policies, which are implemented by the Ministry of Transport and Aviation and the Ministry of Works and National Assets. Senior government officials have attended several meetings and workshops in respect of the proposed Abidjan-Dakar Corridor Highway, the West Africa Railway Link and the Sea Link project, the fiber optic cable, and the ECOWAS passport. Preparations are currently in the final stages for the implementation of the pilot stage of the ECOWAS biometric ID cards. Sensitization. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the Sierra Leone delegation has continued to engage the Sierra Leone Parliament and the public about the ECOWAS Parliament. This series of engagements have taken several methods, including reports, press statements, radio and television programs, etc., etc. Economic and social situation. Economic growth is expected to pick up during 2019 following key policy reforms, increased growth in agriculture and services, improved electricity supply, construction activities, and resumption of higher-grade iron ore mining. Growth is therefore projected at 5.1% during 2019 from 3.5% in 2018. The non-iron ore GDP is projected at around 4.5%. Economic growth will average around 5.0% during 2019 to 2022. Domestic revenues are projected to increase to 5.3 trillion leones, or 14.1% of GDP in 2019, from 4.4 trillion or 13.7% of GDP in 2018, mainly due to policy and administrative reforms such as implementation of Treasury single accounts, minimizing duty waiver concessions, liberalization of fair prices, tax audits, improved monitoring and supervision, data margin analysis, GST verification exercise, enforcement measures, implementation of Finance Act and ECOWAS CET, as well as improved collection from the National Telecommunications Commission, NATCOM, and fisheries. Domestic revenues are projected to increase to 18% of GDP by 2022 and 20% of GDP by 2023, in line with government's agenda. Government will continue to rationalize expenditures and strengthen fiscal discipline in order to reduce the fiscal deficit. Expenditures will be maintained at an average of 21.6% of GDP over the medium term. Accordingly, the fiscal deficit, including grants, will decline from 5.8% in 2018 to a projected 3.2% by 2022. The Free Quality School Education Program, FQSE, for primary and secondary schools, launched by the current government, has continued to attract more pupils to the school systems. The program is now benefiting 2.14 million pupils in government-owned and government-assisted pre-primary, primary, and secondary schools. government has increased and sustained budgetary allocations to education to 21% in the 2018 supplementary budget and 2019 budget. Government has also invested in school infrastructure and feeding. Macroeconomic convergence. Sierra Leone's status with regards to primary convergence criteria has improved. The country has satisfied two criteria, namely the central bank financing of fiscal deficit and the months of import cover. With regards to secondary convergence criteria, the government met both criteria, debt to GDP ratio and nominal exchange stability. The debt to GDP ratio stands at 55.2 with a target of either 70% or greater, whilst the nominal exchange stability rate stands at 5.5 with a target of 10%. Environment and climate change. Sierra Leone has continued to suffer from environmental problems, including deforestation, degradation, and fragmentation, the loss of soil fertility, a dramatic decline and loss of biodiversity, air and water pollution. These challenges have a tendency to hinder Sierra Leone from making progress with regard to economic development. In pursuit of an environmentally sound, sustainable development in Sierra Leone, and also contribute towards achieving the African Union Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Goals, the Environmental Protection Agency, Sierra Leone EPASL, established by an Act of Parliament in 2008, has been collaborating with MDAs, local councils, civil society and non-governmental organizations, universities, and research institutions to undertake the following programs and activities: engaging people and communities in the country to adopt new measures in combating deforestation, climate change, and various human activities that hinder the preservation of the environment; mass sensitization through national and local radio and TV programs, jingles and songs aired to stop the clearing of the hills, mangroves, and continuous sand mining in sensitive areas. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, climate change in Sierra Leone is rare. Tragic disasters caused by heavy rains, especially the deadly mudslide, which claimed the lives of about 1,000 Sierra Leoneans in 2017 and rendered thousands homeless, is more than a wake-up call. In view of this, the Climate Change Secretariat under the Environmental Protection Agency has continued to implement the following activities that support the Sustainable Development Goal on climate action. National Standing Committee. It comprises key stakeholders and meet quarterly to discuss operational plans and implementation modalities of the National Climate Change Secretariat. This contributes to the achievements of Sustainable Development Goal on climate action. National Climate Change Strategy Action Plan, NCCS and AP. It has developed key priorities action for donor resource mobilization, which is now under implementation by the Ministry of Energy and Water Resources, Meteorological Department, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Roadmap developed for the implementation of the country NDC to help support the global drive of reducing emission levels of greenhouse gases. Monitoring the implementation of various MDAs, NGOs, and CBOs. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the intervention of United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, is also worth noting in this submission. The UNDP Energy, Environment and Natural Resource Management Program in Sierra Leone on the nexus between poverty, lack of access to renewable energy, environmental degradation, and vulnerability to climate change impacts. The vast majority of the people of Sierra Leone rely on natural resources as their source of livelihood. Management of natural resources is closely tied to stability, economic development, rural integration, and good governance. This initiative is particularly relevant in the context of countries' vulnerability to climate change and disasters. The program works to strengthen and augment local capacities in a bid to manage the various natural resources, including land, water, biodiversity, and mineral resources for the advancement of poverty reduction in an environmentally sustainable and socially equitable manner. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the Sierra Leone delegation wishes to express profound appreciation and gratitude to you and the entire membership of ECOWAS Parliament for the enormous support it continues to enjoy under your able leadership. I also want to use this opportunity to wish our Muslim brothers and sisters a happy and blessed month of Ramadan. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I thank you all for listening.